Oh, good morning. Yesterday I posted about how nowhere in the Bible does it say Satan or demons have dominion in hell, and about the etymology of the word hell in the Bible, and how it was not a word native to the Bible, and that later English translators used the word hell to represent 4 different words: Sheol, Hades, Tartarus, and Gehenna. But the word hell is actually a pagan word with ancient Indo-European, Indo-Germanic languages. And this morning, welcome to today, I woke up to 100 emails like this one. And I have to check myself getting frustrated because I literally have like a dozen videos on this. But I've got to check that frustration because it's not your fault. It's not. It's what you've been taught. And I never said in that video that there wasn't a place of judgment or cleansing. The Bible states that there surely is. But for some reason, deep breath, people cannot believe that the word hell is not in their Bible because I guess for some reason people think the Bible was written in English. It wasn't. There was no word hell in any ancient manuscript of the Bible. The English word hell collectively represents 4 words: Sheol, Hades, Tartarus, and Gehenna. That's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's like a fact. But as most people aren't taught this stuff, and we really need to ask why, let's just tackle the biggest comment. What about the story of the rich man and Lazarus? Which means we have to focus on a word often translated as hell in English Bibles, the Greek word Hades. So first thing is that in the Old Testament, there was no hell with fiery flames. There was Sheol. Sheol was like the grave where everyone went when they died. There was no flames, no torture. It was sleep. When the Hebrew scriptures were translated into Greek between the 3rd and 2nd centuries, Greek translators translated Sheol into Hades in the Septuagint, which was the Greek version of the Old Testament. But when they did that on the backside, all of a sudden the Hebraic idea of Sheol, the grave, began to take on new dynamic in Hebraic consciousness. And you see a lot of literature at this time, like Enoch, begin to incorporate different ideas about the afterlife. And in tons of videos, I've discussed this fact, that the New Testament writers sourced from the Septuagint. So we can literally see, when you go through history, the evolution of this. It's not the ravings of a lunatic sitting in a car. This is scholarly, historical fact. And in the Old Testament, long before Sheol was translated as hell in English, Sheol was translated as Hades in Greek. And Hades was mentioned quite a bit by New Testament writers who wrote in Greek. Again, general reminder, the New Testament was written in Greek, not English. Keep that in mind and keep your hands and feet inside the car at all times, please. And in the New Testament, which again, written in Greek, Hades was later translated as hell 11 times in English, many centuries later. 10 times as hell and 1 time as grave. And that still shows up in the King James. And many of the most well-known mentions of hell that are in the New Testament, such as the parable of the rich man and Lazarus in Luke 16, Jesus saying, "And on this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell will not overcome it," in Matthew 16:18, Jesus' warnings to Capernaum in Matthew 11:23 and Luke 10:15, Peter's first major evangelistic speech in Acts 2:27, and even the centuries later Apostles' Creed, which says Jesus descended into hell, are actually translated from the word Hades. This is a fact. It is not opinion. And like the word Sheol in the Old Testament, Hades was where everyone went after they died. Didn't matter if you were bad, good, righteous, unrighteous, didn't matter. When you kicked the bucket, Hades is where you went. It's where Jesus went after his crucifixion. And even the story of the thief on the cross in Luke 23, whom Jesus promises paradise, makes so much more sense when you understand the role of Hades, aka the unseen realm, in the Jewish mind of 2,000 years ago. So let's go deep. What's Hades? Now, some of you may be familiar with Hades in Greek mythology. Hades was the name of the ancient god of the underworld and the name of the shadowy place underneath the earth the dead were sent. And in Greek mythology, at death, souls were ferried to Hades upon the river Styx. Upon arrival at the gates of Hades, guarded by the 3-headed dog Cerberus, souls judged to have led good lives went to paradise. But if you were naughty, or you were known for offending the gods, you were taken to Tartarus in the depths of Hades and condemned to eternal torment. That's also where the Titans who warred with Olympian gods were bound as punishment. And Tartarus shows up in the New Testament too, but that's a whole different thing. Now, when it comes to the New Testament, a lot of that Greek mythology was scrapped. No fairies, no dog, blah, blah, blah. But in general, Hades in the Jewish mind during this intertestamental period and in the New Testament was a place of 2 divisions, a place of blessing and punishment. And this is seen in Matthew 11, Matthew 16, Luke 10, Luke 16, and Acts 2. And remember, Hades is where everyone went. So if you went to the good place, sometimes referred to as the bosom of Abraham, that's where you would rest in peace with your ancestors. And some believed in the concept of paradise was present within Hades as well. Luke 23, thief on the cross, anyone? But Hades wasn't just the good place. There was a bad part about the place too, a place of torment and maybe even flames, according to Jesus' parable of Lazarus and the rich man. Some argue that this story in Luke 16 was just a parable that Jesus was using as metaphor to talk about how earthly possessions and pleasures are of no benefit in the afterlife, and how Jesus was foreshadowing how some people wouldn't believe even if someone demonstrably came back from the dead. Think about that. Others say Jesus was being super literal here, and how you interpret that is going to depend on your interpretation and orthodoxy or denominational tradition. But what we do know, and is a fact, is that the idea of Hades being a place of peace and or punishment was widely understood by both Jewish hearers at that time and later Christians of the first centuries. But understanding Hades this way helps you understand a major event in Christianity, and that is, what the heck happened to Jesus after the crucifixion, where he went, and what happened because of it. So scriptures like Matthew 12:40, Acts 2:24, Acts 2:31, Ephesians 4:9 through 10, Colossians 1:18, 1 Peter 3:18 through 19, and 1 Peter 4:6, they refer to Jesus descending into the earth to the dead, ministering to the dead. And all of that makes sense when you understand what Hades was to these cultures, that it was a place for the righteous and the unrighteous. And according to Jesus himself in Revelation 1:17 through 18, he even comes slamming with the ultimate mic drop. Do not be afraid. I'm the first and the last and the living one. I was dead, and see, I am alive forever and ever. And I have the keys of death and of Hades. And let's not forget 1 Corinthians 15:55, which refers to the Septuagint version of Hosea 13:14. Where is thy penalty, O death, O Hades, where is thy sting? But, however and whatever you think about Hades, it's not something that's meant to last forever. Revelation 20:13 says death and Hades will give up its occupants, and Revelation 20:14 says Hades will eventually be thrown into a lake of fire, the second death. So to recap, when translated into Greek, the Old Testament term Sheol was translated into Hades. Hades is found 11 times in the Greek New Testament. The King James translates it 10 times as hell and 1 time as grave, but no other major translation now translates Hades as hell. Hades is where everyone went after death and was a place of the righteous and unrighteous who were separated by a great chasm that cannot be crossed. Implied by Scripture, Hades is where Jesus went after his death before rising again, to which Jesus now holds the keys of death and Hades, and the gates of Hades cannot stand against the church, and Hades is temporary, and with death will be destroyed in the lake of fire at the final judgment. Good morning. That's a lot of stuff. But there's actually so much more. And I have tons of videos on that in my playlists and a workshop available by donation. So I guess I should do a video on the main word Jesus used that was translated as hell in English, and that's Gehenna. So stick around. That video will be a scorcher. God bless. See you soon.